Hi guys. It's been a while. I apologize. Oh man. Well, in today's video, I'm going to be rehousing my two lovely crested geckos. This has been something I've wanted to do for a while. Oh look, it's my reflection in the background. That's flattering. Hello me. Where was I? I've been wanting to rehouse my crested geckos into a naturalistic vivarium for quite some time. So I figured what better opportunity to make a video than this. So as you can see, won't get too much into it because I want to show you guys this in an actual video. These are some of my Reptiliatus fantasticus enclosures. See up there and down here as well. So I want to do the same for my crested geckos. There's two lovely enclosures that would be suitable for these juvenile geckos to go in. I'm going to run you step by step how I set them up. We're going to do a drainage layer of Hydroton, some substrate, put in some nice live plants, decorations. It's going to be awesome. So I hope you guys stick around and enjoy. And if you like this type of content, definitely feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below because there's lots more like this coming along the way. So I'm not actually sure that every one of you has had the opportunity to meet my crested geckos. So both of them are female. Now, I've had this girl since she was quite little. Funny enough, she still doesn't have a name. A few months ago, I asked you guys for name suggestions. There were some awesome ones. I just couldn't decide on one. I'm gonna open it up again. Those of you who already voted will hate me. Definitely re-suggest the same names if you did already. I don't mind. We'll see which name suggestion has the most thumbs up by the end of the month. And I'm probably gonna go with one of those names as long as it feels right. I'd love to get some suggestions from you guys. But yeah, this is the first one. She's very beautiful. I got her very tiny from my friend Shahar, who is known as Pet Galore on Instagram. But yeah, this is a very gorgeous pinstripe harlequin with some good head structure developing too. Still young, has time to change a lot, but lovely pattern coming in on this animal. I'm gonna go ahead and place the lid back on her temporary holding container. Here we have Pingu. This is my lily white crested gecko. For those of you who have been asking for an update on her, here you go. She has grown so much. What a beautiful girl. Hey, Pingu. Yep, that is one outstanding gecko. It's quite something to see how much these animals change as they grow. Primarily, one thing I find fascinating is, okay, fine, you can stay down there, is how much her back filled out. So if you remember when she was little, all this cream wasn't necessarily there. There's a few big gaps, and I've noticed as she's aging, it's really filling out. So that's Pingu. Pingu's actually been changing quite a bit lately. I've noticed she's developing a lot of sort of like pinkish reds as her base color, which is really cool. I've never seen that on her before. So lots of different development going on, which is quite lovely. And of course, Pingu has some nice crest structure too. So awesome. That's my crested gecko duo, the sweet little ladies. Alright guys, so the first step we're going to do with our tank is create a drainage layer. And I think that the easiest way to do this with a light material is to use Hydroton. Now Hydroton is easily accessible online. I'm going to post a few links in my description that you can purchase it through on Amazon and it'll ship right to your door. The other option you can exercise is I've noticed IKEA now offers Hydroton as Odla. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but lo and behold, you can buy Hydroton at IKEA now. So thank you for that, IKEA. Bang for a buck, I think it's a decent price. But yeah, I know, for example, Emma Lynn Sampson.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel.
Uses this, and I was happy to see on her channel that she's using Hydroton from IKEA.
Little clay balls, and this will allow a place for the water to drain down to.
It's a great way for everyone to access it if they don't feel like, or if they're not able to make purchases through the Amazon platform. Now, Hydroton is pretty dusty stuff. So the first thing we're going to want to do before placing it in our enclosure is using a strainer. We're going to rinse the Hydroton out to remove a lot of that dust. So we'll go ahead and do that now. I wish I had a bigger strainer. This is kind of ridiculous, but I'm going to strain some of it like this. show you, get the gist of it, and then we'll move on. I like to use hot water, removes extra stains and such. Get the water going, and just like that, you can see the color that's coming out of it there. And that just helps helps rinse it out well. I'm gonna take my Hydroton here, pour it into this container, and I'm just gonna keep going like that. Alright guys, so what we're going to use as a barrier between our drainage and the substrate itself is this fiberglass mesh that's used for mosquito screening panels and windows. So why we do this is because if we don't have some sort of barrier between our drainage and our substrate, the water will get to the substrate more easily because the substrate's allowed to fall between the Hydroton, which really defeats the purpose of it. So we're going to want to cut a few pieces of this to fit the 12 by 12 dimensions of each of these enclosures. To be clear, these are both 18 by 18 by 24 Exoterra, and then the Zoomed dimensions are pretty well the same thing, the two competitor enclosures here. So that is what we're going to do. Now we're going to cut 2 panels for each. We'll place the Hydroton in each tank, and then the barriers, and we'll put our bedding over top and start planting. Cool. So we're gonna make 2 of these. Two. You can actually just use the first one that we made to measure up the second. Beautiful. Alright guys, so for the soil mixture, I've taken some cocoa husk, a little bit of cypress mulch, and actually some aspen bedding to mix together. Now the reason the aspen is in there is that it slowly breaks down. In the time that it is there, it provides some air pockets, and as it breaks down, isopods in particular that are going to be going in here as part of the cleanup crew really learn and grow to appreciate it. They help and facilitate it breaking down. So we have that mixed together, and then we're also going to take some organic black earth and mix that in as well. So I'm just gonna dump that in. This is fun to do with one hand. I probably should have used a tripod, but hey, I'm human and I made the mistake. There we go. And then we're just gonna stir it like so. And yeah, that'll be our soil mix for the Crested Gecko enclosures. Alright guys, so now that we have our washed Hydroton balls and screen barrier for the drainage layer cut, we can open the tank and start by putting in our drainage layer. So, I'm going to go ahead and pour in the Hydroton. Spread a layer there. And I'm not sure I'm going to do very much more than that, but it should be good actually. It's not going to be too crazy, you just need a little bit because the actual lip here is only so tall, as you can see. So I only want it so thick because we also obviously need substrate for the plants to be in. So that should do. Next, what we're going to do is take our barrier that we cut out and lay it down in the enclosure. As you can see, I clearly didn't cut this perfectly to fit, but as I mentioned before, it's better to have it be a bit longer so you can fold it down into the corners, etc. We're gonna throw the soil over this, so it's no big deal. Fold it down under or over, down like that, and the dirt's gonna go over top. So let's go ahead and put our substrate mix into the container next. raw moment here. These movies take hours to film. Sometimes, you know, putting them together, the whole process, it's a lot of work. So I'm just gonna shamelessly have a little yogurt snack while going on to the next step. All right, vanilla. Hope you're enjoying the video. Alright guys, so now that we have our drainage layers set up along with the substrate in the enclosures, we're ready to go ahead and put our plants in. The first thing we're going to do with the plants is make sure that they're well rinsed off and void of any herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and we'll remove soil around the root systems, rinse them, get them bare root, make sure that they're safe to go into the enclosure with the animals. So let's go ahead and do that and walk through that process. When it comes to the plants you're going to be putting in your enclosure, it's really important that you first give them a really good rinse off. Now, another thing to consider is the soil. I've been keeping animals for a really long time, and I've been putting plants in their enclosures for a really long time. I don't necessarily feel that you have to take the soil out from around the roots every time you plant a live plant into your vivarium. Now, it depends. If you're keeping amphibians and animals that are in a saturated substrate constantly, yes, it could be releasing fertilizers and such into the soil that can get into their skin. That's no good. But for the most part with reptiles, if it's just a mix of perlite and peat, you're usually good. That being said, I'm not going to advocate to never do it. At your discretion, some people will bare root and remove all soil around the roots of their plant and put it into their soil mix, and I think that's a great recommendation. I would suggest doing that. But at the bare minimum, what I do is I purchase my plants, grow them and keep them for a few months or at least weeks prior to planting them into my enclosures, and during that time I'm rinsing them off, giving them good spray downs so that they continue to grow, and if there's any residual insecticides left on them, they're completely devoid of it. So, with that being said, let's rinse these plants off one last time. They've been in my care for about 3-4 weeks now, and then we'll start doing the planting. Hey! Water running nice and cold. Okay, so now that we've washed off our plants, we're going to go ahead and use a container like this to bare root the plants, which is the process of removing the soil that they came in their pot, and then we'll put them into the enclosure. So we'll start with this enclosure in the back. Let's go ahead and bare root our first plant. Here I have a Crested Gecko Craig, which is one of my favorite live plants to use in Vivaria, especially Crested Gecko vivariums, and that's because they really are a hardy, slow-growing plant that doesn't take over too quickly, and Crested Geckos in particular love to wedge themselves between the foliage when they sleep, so they provide an incredible opportunity for the animal to rest, and when misted, provide a lot of surface area for water droplets to form and be lapped up by your pets. So this is Crested Gecko Craig, awesome candidate for your vivarium. So we're just going to go ahead here and make sure we don't have too much root binding down here at the bottom. These plants are hardy, they don't go into too much shock, so you can't actually snap off roots. If there's a lot of roots here, you can cut them off. But we're just going to gently loosen the pot like this, and whoop, there we go. This one's actually relatively dry, so it'll need a good watering when it goes into the tank. There you can see the excessive root system, so we're just going to go in here and peel off that dirt. Don't really want the perlite in the tank either, because it looks kind of bad anyways. And then I'm gently going to pull at the roots a bit, because I do kind of want to pull them apart so they spread out through the tank, if that makes sense. So I'm going to go like that, get most of that dirt out. Now again, I'm not crazy about removing all the dirt. I've never had any problems, and I'm only sharing my experience. I'm not telling you this is how you should do it, but this is okay for me. So I'm gonna rinse the top of the plant off a bit better, and maybe the roots a bit, and this plant is gonna be ready to go in a sec. So we have one plant ready, and usually I'll just take the pot, so you know, tips on how not to make too much of a mess. Just put the plant back in the pot until you're ready to use it. Awesome, so why don't I time lapse it up while I do the rest of them. Alrighty, now that we've bare rooted our plants, we're gonna go ahead and set up the enclosures. I'm gonna put in a Dracaena Janet Craig for this one. And I want it to go in this back corner. This is where I'd like to have it. So I'm just gonna move some of my soil out of the way. And we're gonna gently take it like this. Make sure all the roots are covered in the earth. It's some nice soil. I'm impressed. It's very lush. Pat it down like so. So the next thing we're gonna do is start thinking about the Exoterra vine and the branch. Now I plan to put some cork hollows in here eventually, but I don't have them right now. I've used them all up in my tarantula enclosures. But this will work for now as some form of, decor that they can climb over. And we have a Exoterra vine here, all wrapped up and curled. What I like to do for setting these up for a surface area is actually like to first unwind them or unfold them. And from there, what we're gonna do is actually, this might sound weird, we're going to fold it in half and then randomly just kind of do a few bends like that. So we have this cool little fold. It kind of gives it that jungly vine look. And then on one of them, we might just wrap it around my arm. Use that shape to maneuver it or manipulate it the way you like. Stretch it out a bit. And the opposite end can just do whatever it likes. So then you kind of come out with like this thing. It's totally random, right? And then all you need to do then is take the long end there, or the loop end, and attach it to something in the enclosure. So we have one, you get the gist of it. For the second one, I won't show it when I'm building the tank. Well, let's put this in the enclosure. So the next thing we're going to do, as seen in my how to make a terrarium background, there's a few easy terrarium background build tutorials I have, I link up here. We're going to be taking this gardening wire, and it's often used to attach creeping vines to trellises and other walls, etc. So we're going to take some of this, cut it, we're going to actually weave it through the screen and have it hold the vines up, and we'll twist them on top of the screen so that they're locked into place. I'll show you in a second. And that'll allow the vines to be hanging up top and suspended. But before we go ahead and put that in there, I'm gonna put in a few more plants quickly. So we're gonna get this lovely one in here. It's gonna go in the back corner like so. Now a lot of the foreground here is very empty, so I'm going to take a few cuttings of creeping ficus here and lay them into the front. They're a really lovely plant that does a good job creeping across the enclosure. So I'll put a few in the front so it just doesn't make this front space look so empty, if that makes sense. So just gently get the roots in there like so. Looks good. Looks good. So now we're gonna go ahead and take that piece of wood we had and we're gonna sit it where we want it. So I actually want this to kind of be along the back beside that one tree. The tree is here. I'm gonna have this curve around behind it like so. And then I want this vine to come up here. I'm cutting some wires here. And what these are going to be for, connect our vine to that loop like so. So I want the other vine to come up here. So I'm gonna go ahead, get my first loop through, take our vine like so, loop it back through, and then we just twist these up and that should hold. So there you go. Now we have the vine up in the plant. We have a nice plant. The enclosure is more or less ready for the gecko. Now we're just going to go ahead and spray them down a little bit. Alright, so last but not least, to make this as bioactive as possible, we're going to want to add our janitorial crew. And that consists of, at the minimum, a few very cool little invertebrates. We have white springtails as well as the dwarf white isopod. So these are the tropical white springtails. And those will be going into the enclosure. So we're basically going to just take a few and tap them into the cage like so. And what the springtails do is actually colonize the substrate, will consume mold that grows in the enclosure and help slowly break down some of the organic debris. Mostly mold though, mold and fungus produced in the substrate or on food, etc. On the wood, for example, as it establishes itself in the tank, will be consumed by the springtail. So they're really great to have. The dwarf white isopods are a little different. They will consume organic waste, so fecal material, leaf litter, dead leaves from the plants. Anything that doesn't get picked out usually gets consumed by those isopods. That being said, you still need to be cleaning the glass, you still need to be disinfecting cage decor and picking out feces as you notice them in the tank. So let's go ahead and put some dwarf white isopods in next. So I have some soil containing them. Just going to sprinkle it gently in the enclosure in a few spots. Now this species is parthenogenic as well as the springtails, so it won't take very long at all for them to colonize the enclosure. So our vivariums or terrariums are all done now, and there's one last thing we need in each one for the geckos. So here we have the Exoterra water dish, as you can see, 2 of them. And we're just going to take these and fill them up, find a good spot for them in each enclosure, and fill them with some water. And then the second one, there we go. Awesome. Alright guys, so now comes the fun part where we put the gecko into the enclosure. It's going to be good. Let's go ahead and move the geckos into their new tanks. So here we have No Name, just waking her up gently. And yeah, let's go ahead and place her in her new home. There you go, honey. Go ahead. There you go, girl. There you go. There you go. Okay guys, so last but not least, we have Pingu. Gently going to pick her out. Hi, honey. Oh, you're so beautiful. Look at this gecko. Hi, girl. She's growing up so fast. Okay, I guess you're ready to go into your new enclosure then. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed watching me set up my juvenile Crested Gecko enclosures. It's going to be cool. They are so happy in there, and I think they're really going to enjoy them. If you guys have any questions, don't forget to let me know down below, and I'd be happy to answer them for you. Let me know what you thought about the enclosure build. What's your favorite Crested Gecko morph? Let me know in the comment section down below. And don't forget to give No Name a name, and give No Name and Pingu a thumbs up. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe down below, ding the notification bell to know when my next video is coming out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Looking forward to seeing you guys in another video again soon. Take care.